Hi everyone, and welcome to the second RISA tutorial. For this, I'm going to show you how to release a member and then show you a couple of other little tricks that have to do with displaying what you want to see. Okay, so here we have our RISA screen. This is the two-dimensional RISA educational version, which you can download from the course website. You can also and I forgot to note last time that you can only use this on a Windows machine. I believe you can't use it on a Mac. So the question becomes, well, in the last session I showed you how to do frames and trusses and frames and various boundary conditions. But what if you happen to have a structure that looks something like this? And so here we have a hinge here in the top left. I should probably label these. So here at B you have a hinge, and this would be the same problem that you might have if you were designing a truss, right? So for example, if you had, standard worn truss, looks something like this, and it's usually implied that each of these members are axial only, and so you can only so there's no resistance at the joints. So I'll show you how to do this. So if you here you are in RISA, and so if you click on, and so the dimensions of this are 12 feet by 8 feet, and so I'm just actually going to use the grid here, and I can zoom in with my little zoom button here, and I start a new member, and I'll leave the defaults in there, and down here it says I end and J end. I'll talk about that in a second, but they both say fixed, so I'm going to leave them fixed. And I'm going to go up 8 and over 12 and then back down 8. And my boundary conditions are both pinned, so I'll click on boundary condition, click on pinned, apply that, and then I have a distributed load on the top. I believe it was negative 2.4 kips per feet. And there I have it. So if I get rid of my grid, now I could solve this, and if I take a look at my deflected shape, I see that clearly there is not a hinge here at joint B, right? And so I want to change that to a hinge, and so what I'm going to do is so one of the things that is, well, before I get there, so what I'll do here is go over here to my data entry, this little list of spreadsheets here, and if I click on members, it gives me member 1 goes from N1 to N2. So the thing about a member in a computer program is that it has to have an I end and a J end. It has to have a start and a finish. When you're drawing lines and when you're just defining things as a line, you can just say, it either starts at one end or the other end, or vice versa. You don't really care which end is which. But in the computer, it has to care. So one of the things that you can do here is there's this little there's a little red, and it's got red and blue tips on it. So if you take a look at that, what it does is it puts and up here in the top right there's a key. It puts a red at the I end and a blue at the J end so that you know which end is which. And the reason for that is because, if you're trying, so if I go back here to members, it says here the I release and the J release. So in this case, what I want is for member 1, if I show my members here, for member 1 I want to release the J. And so what will that, so if I go back to members, if I click on member 1 under the J, I can click the little red arrow. It's going to tell me I want to clear my results because it's going to change my structure. And then I can change my JN to pin. And it sticks a little pin right there, which if I get rid of my red and blue, it sticks that back at the joint. Right? So if I show that a little closer, well, it never gets any bigger actually, which is kind of annoying. But so you've got we call that a release. So the idea there is that you are no longer, you're basically applying a hinge between the member and the joint, right? So if I were to zoom in on that, I'm essentially saying, okay, I've got this member, I've got this joint, and then I've got this other member. And so right now, the way I have it is this member is still fixed to the joint, but the vertical member is not, right? So the vertical member has this, it can rotate, and so, it might do this, whereas over here, this will always stay with the joint. I guess you could sort of do that, right? So if I solve that now, you see that, right? You see that there's a change in angle between these two pieces. And if I go and take a look at my joint deflections, it tells me that N1 has a rotation here of 8.58 to the negative e to the 1, which actually that's the one down here at the bottom. N2 is actually the same, but it's negative. Negative 8.58. In fact, they're all the same because they're all rotating the same. Let's fix that because that's not going to be very helpful. So if I stick another load in here, let's do a member load in the x direction. Let's do it at 4 feet. Right, and so if I solve that again, and now I take a look at my joint coordinates, oops, not my joint deflections, you see 4 different joint rotations here, right? And so negative 8.383 is the one we're looking at here. And so what that is that's actually the rotation of the I end of member 2. Okay? So if I wanted to, one thing I could do is I could actually switch it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and remember that number, it was 8.38, right? So now I can do is go back to a fixed end of member 1 and then change the I end of member 2. Right, so now you see the circle has moved over to the beam, and so now if I solve it, the shape looks the same because essentially it's the same thing. But now what's happening is that if you look at N2, now it says 8.016, not 8.38, right? So now what's happening is the joint is attached to the column instead of the beam. And so if you go back to this, instead of the beam, now the joint is attached to the column and not the beam, right? So now the joint and the beam can rotate separately, but the joint and the column are fixed together. So then the question becomes, so that's why it's called a release. That's why you don't put like a joint in there. It's called a release. And so now the question becomes, well, what happens if I release both of them? So if I go to members, and now I go up here and I release it, and I say pinned at the J end, and you see it there in the graphics, they're both released. And so if I solve it, and I take a look at my joint deflections, and it says my rotation is 0. So really what should happen here is that it should not solve, because essentially you have too many unknowns, right? There's a rotation here, a rotation here. What's the rotation of the joint? You don't know. It's actually undefined. But RISA is smart enough to know, okay, this is a joint that's completely undefined, so we're just gonna call it 0, right? So that is essentially fix or locks the joint at 0 and then solves, and then you get rotation of both of the members, the end of both of the members, but you don't actually know what it is, right? Because nowhere here does it tell you what it is, right? It'll actually show it to you here down in the deflections, right? But there's nowhere in RISA that'll tell you what that angle is. And so that's one of the usefulnesses of attaching to one joint, or attaching one of the members to the joint, is that it will tell you what that joint rotation is. All right, so a couple of other neat things you can do here. If you go up here to this little white box one that says create new model view, you can actually create a second model view. And so the advantage to that is that you can change the view. So in this case I could put the axial force on, I could create another one, I could put the shear force in there. I could create, that's interesting. Oh, it's because it's so small. Here, let's make that bigger. Point loads. Let's make it 3 kips. So if I solve that, now unfortunately my windows, they're actually still there, but they're behind the other model, the main model view. And so I can just keep making model views. And so in this one, perhaps I could put in moment. And I can put in one that's maybe deflection. And, you know, maybe on some of them I put the joint numbers, and others I put the member numbers, and still others I put the member properties. Right, so you get the idea. Maybe here I put the reactions. Right, so that's a really useful tool, particularly when you get to reporting this stuff, because you could, in theory, you could just keep all this open, change your structure, and, you know, take a screenshot of the whole thing all at once, something like that. So, okay, and then as a quick reminder, so here, maybe I want to know what the moment is in this member. I can't really see it right there, and so I can always do the click on this detail thing, and it'll give me another window, and it'll have those details. And if I want to know what that moment is, I can always click on that, and it'll tell me what that is. So, and then finally, one of the things that you can do is you can change your units. So if you click on, there's a button here with, it says inches, millimeters, and you can change your units. So this can be useful if you have pounds, for example, instead of feet. And you'll notice all these changed to pounds. And the moments are actually now in, actually they're probably in kip feet, right? So you could change that to pound feet to be consistent. And it shows you down here at the bottom, it says member shear forces in pounds, right? So that's how you know what it is. All right, and then one last thing I can show you is if you're doing a truss, so let's start a new model here. If you're doing a truss, when you create your members like this, you can change down here at I end to J end, you can change it to pinned. And then when you draw your truss, so like this, so something like this. Sure, there it is. Right, so now I have a truss. That is an actual truss with the exception of, right, so I made my truss members go from here all the way over to here. And so that's not going to work, right? So if I were to stick some loads in here, and let's throw some boundary conditions in there. So if I try to solve this, it tells me that I have instabilities. Okay, and then it says, do you want to see what we locked? And I'll say yes. And it tells me right here that it locked the y direction of these two joints. And what's going on here is that it thinks that this member, let's use the numbers, member 2 goes all the way from this joint, N2 all the way over to this joint, right? And so as a truss, basically it's saying it's bypassing these two joints in the middle. So that's no good, right? So we don't want that. And so instead what we want to do is, again, they're still pinned. You want to do something like this. And then same thing on the bottom. We can delete these members. And go from N1 to N6. And so now, if we solve it, it's very happy. We take a look at the, it's not a very exciting truss because it kind of bypassed all the joints there. So let's stick another, just for fun, let's stick another one down here. So there we have a bunch of axial forces. If we take a look at the moment diagrams, then everything is 0, right? If we take a closer look at the details here, you see there are no moments, which there can't be because everything is pinned, right? All these joints are hinged, essentially. We have released the end of every member, and if we take a look at the members, you see, oh, everything is released here. So, all right, so that concludes my second RISA tutorial.